Well, hello, good morning, and welcome to the latest Bath Life Business Club as we seek to navigate our way through these strange times. I hope you're all keeping well and staying as positive as we all can. We might as well try to be positive and give it a proper go. Keep optimistic, keep hopeful that the smart people and businesses here, plus Bath's extraordinary vitality, will all serve us well in the coming months. One of the many paradoxes of the pandemic is that we've never been further apart, yet closer still. We've all seen inside each other's houses, as we will today, on screen, but nonetheless still inside in a way we wouldn't have done previously. And sure, that's one of the reasons why there's been such a surge in home improvements and design and sales that we'll be chronicling in Bath Life very soon, because we are back very shortly. Our dwellings have been overlived in, and they've been on display. Time for a spruce up perhaps, or a reworking to allow better home working, or even a move to a place with more space, trading longer commutes for fewer days travelling to that quaint 20th century legacy construct, an office. But one place that doesn't change, of course, is retail. And we're going to be talking with our panellists this morning about the effect of this lockdown and changing habits about how people are navigating their personal lives and so on, what it means in our retail sector. We've all of us seen each other in full domestic mode in our attire and attitudes, more relaxed, more casual, more ruffled, more fallible. Just how do we unmute? Well, I hope our panelists know how to do that shortly. And of course, with more intruding kids and pets, in short, we've just been more ourselves. Perhaps we might all remember those early September days of childhood when you put on unfamiliar, maybe unwanted school uniforms after endless weeks of shoeless summer. Well, that moment looms for some as they don the working armour of suits and heels and even that bizarre signifier ties. But we'll wager not as many as previously. That itself is a signifier of how we are all being changed by these circumstances. We shall see. And likewise, we shall also see what happens in retail. So if the structural change wrought by online buying has been tough enough, retail has been on the front line coping with Corona. What has it been like? How have some of our leading independents here in Bath been faring? What's their prognosis for the rest of the year? How will trading be in a tourist-led city, somewhat lacking in tourists? All this and much, much more will be discussed shortly with our illustrious panel. Vander Woerd of Mallory's, Nickie Portman of the eponymous Portman, Tim Moss of the equally eponymous Moss of Bath, and Helen from Taste of Bath, not perhaps a traditional retailer, but someone with a very keen interest in how Bath produce is sold and marketed. Ahead of that, a couple of parish notices. Thanks to all of you who contributed to Bull's Aid 10 days back. I'm sure that many of you will have been very sad to miss the opportunity to donate to this fine cause, which supports Bath's charities. But never fear, donations are still open. Check the site. And again, thanks to all our sponsors and contributors, led by the mighty headliner, Bruin Dolphin. Our next business surgery is on Monday, featuring Ojo Solutions. We'll be discussing tech strategies and routes to market. Again, we have all been changed, and our business methods and approaches have been changed by this process. These business surgeries are free, offering practical, helpful, much needed advice to Bath's businesses. And they feature a deep dive into key areas like legal and HR, issues around furlough and return to work, financial planning, personal and professional, dispute resolution, technology strategy, especially working from home, a whole variety of areas. And if you have a professional service that will have value for others and you're looking for more business, and aren't we all, please talk to us. Further ahead, we are absolutely delighted to say that planning is fully underway for the Bath Life Awards. We're running them on Thursday, February the 25th. You don't need to write the date down. We will be communicating just once or twice in the coming weeks. But it'll be at the Assembly Rooms, Thursday, February 25th. Headline sponsored once more by the Royal Crescent Hotel and Spa. It is such an important thing to bring businesses of Bath together, and those evenings and the attendant events around them and so on, we do think can act as a sort of coalition force. It's a while away yet, but please join in. Even though most of us have had pretty, insert rude word here, years, we are all on a same par. So whilst your year may not have been that great, it's about your relative performance compared with others and so on. So please do nominate yourself, and nominations open pretty shortly. Much sooner than all of that, we are absolutely thrilled to be bringing back Bath Life on August 28th, which is only a couple of weeks or so away. We're thrilled to be back. It's been a while, The first issue closes on Friday for advertising, so skates on. Pat White will be delighted to take your call. And of course, editorially, please get your information, your stories in to Lydia on our Bath Life team. We will come roaring back, and we'll be delighted to play our part, celebrating, chronicling this incredible city once more. Right, to today's business. Let's bring in Tim first, if we may. Mr. Moss, if you unmute yourself and hit play video, we shall see you, as long as I don't have to keep filling in the time. Any moment now, Tim is going to be joining us. Marvellous. How are you, sir?
I'm very good, Gregory. How are you?
Tim, only my mother calls me Gregory, and that's not that often these days. So,
likewise, my mum calls me Timothy. So there we go.
I did wonder. Well, I'll refuse to call you that. Instead, I'm going to call you to give your opinion on what has been happening. So, when did you open your doors again, and what was that first morning, that first week like?
So, classed as a non-essential retailer, we were not able to open the store until June the 14th. But we were able to take our installation teams back on June the 1st. When we closed, March 24th, I think it was, we had 6 to 7 weeks of work pre-booked into our installation diary. So that was immediately, when we go back in, it's a catch-up process to get those jobs completed. We kind of introduced, I guess the correct term would be, a triage scheme of importance to these jobs. Customers who had no TV or they had no signal were obviously prioritised first. So we go in as an installation business on June the 1st, and we basically go in and we're at full pace immediately. The store, June the 14th opened up, and obviously the immediate notice is that there's less footfall, there's less customers, there's less traffic on the road. For our business, the store, or we call it now the showroom, only represents about 20% of our revenue. The bulk of what we do now is installation-led or service-led. And we've been back now for 8 weeks, and there's been no let-up in the demand for our goods and services, almost like a pent-up demand for the latest tech.
It may well be the case that you're also experiencing both pent-up, and so it's squashed into this time, but also because we've all spent so much more time in our homes, we actually want them to be better, whatever the iteration of better is, whether it's visually or indeed in terms of tech. Perhaps there's an element of that as well.
I agree. We've had a lot of, if I can call them the elderly or the older generation, who've been told by their children who may live remotely from Bath, they need to get this thing called Netflix and this thing called iPlayer, you see. And these people need the help of an independent business to take them through the process. And we've been very busy with that generation, where we can not metaphorically now hold their hand or physically hold their hand, but we can take them through the process. And it is a pent-up demand, you're right, for product that we all suddenly think we want, or we know we want, whether it be a wireless improvement at home, a bigger TV, a better sound system, or whatever.
And I guess in comparison with at least many Bath retailers, you are much less dependent on tourists, because on the whole, you're not going to sort of impulse buy whilst walking by some fantastic piece of kit. Instead, you do that in your hometown, where you've got someone, one hopes, with a similar capacity to install, etc. So the lack of tourists hasn't really affected you?
It hasn't affected the business directly, but I want to say today that the high street, let's not call it shops, but the high street, everything's interconnected, everything is linked. So we all want the hotels full, we want the restaurants full, we want the cafes and bars full, because everything is interlinked on the high street. I hate calling them shops, because shops are a variety of trades, but they also include a bar, a cafe, a barber, whatever it is, and everything's connected. So in order for the economic well-being of the city, obviously tourists are important, but they're not necessarily important directly to Moss and Bath.
So in a way, they, in a larger sense, as you've just outlined, hospitality very much, it is an ecosystem. It's all part of the living culture of our city.
Yeah,
it's one of the reasons why we all enjoy being in Bath, in this extraordinary place, and we need all parts of it to develop as best they can, which is what we're exploring today, how retail in a broader sense is responding.
Yeah.
So how do you see, you've obviously got a bit of pent-up demand perhaps now. How do you see the autumn playing out for your business? And by the way, I mean, you've been in business, well, the place itself has been in business for 50 plus years. So you're highly experienced in this world, and you've seen recessions come and go. This is far worse than that. What's your prognosis? Well,
we've been in business 58 years, and we've never in 58 years been asked to close for 10 weeks. It's phenomenal. It's unknown. You know, look at Robert's business and Mallory's. They've been in business 122 years. It's phenomenal, phenomenal. The future. I can't, as a business, I don't want to be the only business in an island of shut shops. You know, so you have to have this community of retailers together in order to achieve a healthy city. Normally I could plot the next 3 months and the next 6 months just through my experience. I could get it right within a few bob. I don't know what's going to happen in the autumn, Greg. I fear once the furlough scheme grinds down to a halt, that there will be unemployment. There will be more shop units closing, and it's going to be a tough time. But I don't know, Greg. I don't know what's going to happen in the autumn. Our business model is, like I say, we're 85% installations, and we only rely on the showroom for a small proportion of our revenue, but it's still an important part of the revenue.
Do you think that there might come a point when you actually don't need a showroom?
Do you know what? We've discussed that over the years on numerous occasions. I think it gives the business gravitas, it gives the business a focus. It also, for us, is our headquarters. It's where we have all the admin, where we have the service engineers, it's where we meet every morning to collect and unload stock. It's a headquarters. The fact that there's a showroom there is almost a by the by. But I think I'm a retailer at heart, and you're quite right. We could move and trade in a warehouse in Trowbridge, in Melksham, whatever. But Bath is my city. I'm a retailer at heart, and that won't change.
That's a very, very proud statement, a very redolent statement, I'm sure, that many will recognise. It is your, in a very literal sense, it is your shop front. But there may be some economic reason in times to come, maybe not near term, when it might change. Who knows? None of us know. And to your point about no one knowing, I think that's a very open and sensible thing to say, because the truth is none of us know. We can all interpret. So, for example, there appears to be a body of opinion saying that the furlough scheme, because it has been so useful and so beneficial, actually it can't just taper, and that what are today's heresies become tomorrow's orthodoxies, then will be some other different scheme, perhaps involving national insurance. But no one knows. No one knows at all. But we are faced with problems if not, perhaps. Tim, are there any other thoughts for your fellow retailers? When you look around Bath, Central Bath and so on, there are a number of empty premises currently. What's your take on that? What might Baines and other landlords do differently to encourage retail to thrive?
I'm very glad you asked me that question. First of all, empty shop units are very visible. So you walk down any high street, let's just talk about Bath, and it's very sad to see a for sale sign or to let sign attached to a shop window. because it's very visible. You could argue that an empty office space is invisible because we don't know whether it's let or unlet. So it's the first thing that people look at is the number of empty shops. Why is there empty shops in Bath? Well, maybe have we got too many shops? You know, during the 70s, 80s, 90s, the council planners have given more and more yeses and, you know, planning consent to more and more shops, gradually going further and further afield out of the city centre. Maybe, just maybe, we've got too many. But it comes down, you can't moan about the empty shops and not change our buying habits. Because ultimately, we've had a decline in shops long before COVID-19. It's been discussed for the last 10 years. You know, the high street is dead, Mary Portas, all these government schemes to try and help retail. It's not unique to COVID-19, but obviously it's exacerbated it. But if we all, as consumers, and we're all consumers, want to see the high street thrive, we have to all rethink how we spend our money. And whether we want to... Is
this code for don't buy as much online, get out there and buy it in store?
Exactly. That is exactly it. You can't bemoan the loss of Wood's, the stationers, if you haven't been a customer of theirs and you buy your paper online. I see this all the time. I see people come and see me. Isn't it sad, Tim, that so-and-so is closed? And yet, if you ask the question, if you ask the pertinent question, when did you, as a consumer, shop in that shop that's last closed? Oh, we didn't go there. We bought our stuff online. And it's the rethink of society. If we're all happy with the high streets declining and the high streets falling into more and more empty units because we all choose to buy online, then that is the consequence.
Yeah, there's a much bigger debate, of course, around there about buying online, particularly to multinational companies that don't pay their taxes in this country, let alone in this city. That strays us into other areas. Tim, for now, thank you. If I could ask you to unmute, and we'll bring you back in a second. Sorry, mute, not unmute. We'll now move on to, thanks, to Nickie Portman. When on the one hand we've got businesses in Bath's case been around for 58 years, Mallory's for 122 years. Nickie, you're a relative newbie, and what a time to be in these relatively new times of running a retailer given this pandemic. How has it been for you? You were closed for how many weeks?
Morning, Greg. Yeah, we've been in Bath now for 3 years, over 3 years. But the bigger picture is we've got a shop in Devon that was there for 15 years, and the family business is a 50-year-old business. So I think all that experience of always being in a family business, we had like 15 retail shops that my dad ran, that has massively helped, because I think to start 3 years ago would have been incredibly difficult. Whereas I started because it was a lot easier to run a shop in Bath than to run shops in Devon. So it just made sense. This is my hometown. I was always nervous to have a shop in Bath because of the expense, the overheads. But like Tim, my total passion for retail stopped me from going down the online route at that stage. And I just had to have a shop. That's just what I'm about. And my dad was saying, it's not the time, it's not a good time. And I'm like, well, I have to try it. I have to do it. So we started as a pop-up, and that gave me the get out if it didn't work. So I always intended to stay, but I kind of wanted to, be able to gracefully bow out if it didn't work. And luckily it's worked. So this is another blip. This is tough. We didn't get a grant because we're 59,000 rateable, so we didn't get a grant. Rents carried on. So we kind of restarted thinking, wow, this is massive, because we are a tiny business, but we're not getting any of the benefits of a small business that we should really have got. So I went back down into the shop, having closed it with a little tear, and just did what I did before with other shops. You just start again. And went in fresh and enthusiastic, and I peep out the door and see they'd closed the road, and it looks so sad to see. I think I was one of the first ones to open on Milson Street. So Gap was closing down opposite. I had a couple of the shops opposite that were flooded, India Jane, so they were closed. TM Lewin's gone next door to me. Lock Fine was boarded up. So I bought this gorgeous like flowering tree, stuck it outside my shop, and kind of just put my music on and just got into my own world in the shop and tried to just block out the sadness of the street, really. And I've slowly felt it coming back, and it's been lovely. I do feel it's going to work. I think we will get through this. And
ultimately, none of us can directly influence the bigger picture, the coronavirus, government response, macro trends, and so on. Yeah. What you're articulating there is that we can all control our immediate vista. In your case, literally your shop front. So how has trading been these first few weeks back?
Well, it was very interesting during lockdown because I watched both of my daughters with their online business. So during lockdown, I was very much helping them. I've got Jessie, who runs Portman London as her own business, very much connected with the vibe in the shop. Then I've got Kiana, who's got Kiki Loungewear. So she's done brilliantly. They've both done brilliantly during lockdown because they're online. So I kind of watched them, and I was very much pushing for them to be the online front of the business. But I decided to go online as well. So that's been huge. So we had a little test of it. We put a collection online. It flew out. So in fact, I had to almost keep it sold out for a couple of weeks to give me a chance to breathe, to get the shops going again. And then, so I've got that as a backstop. But like Tim, I don't want to just do online because it's not my thing. You know, it is, I know it's the future. Luckily, I'm not 20 starting. You know, I can actually maybe just about see this out as at my stage as a retailer.
I don't stage. Makes you sound so venerable, and you're not venerable. That's for sure.
I can really maybe enjoy just the fact that it doesn't really matter. I can make this work. So, and I just love it. I absolutely love it. So when I reopened, I decided to get complete new stock, get exactly what people wanted for the month ahead. A lot of the shops had old stock or they'd cancelled the summer stock. So we got all the summer stock in, and I just thought, be brave, go for it. And then just slowly started watching customers coming back. And it was so funny because they trundled up the street and you could see that it's quite a long way up. And they'd come in and they'd be like, literally, oh my God, she's still here. And they just didn't know. And they'd be ringing people saying, it's still here, it's not shut.
Well, Nickie, tell us this. What have been your biggest selling items since lockdown? Well, since you've reopened. For those less familiar with your range as a fashion retailer, what have there been any changes in what people are buying?
Well, on the first few days, I did feel quite strange putting on a dress because I'd been in casual comfies, and I thought, well, I feel quite dressed up just walking down the road. And then I noticed that with the heat, women are loving putting on just a nice casual summer dress. So we're quite a casual shop. We're not a very dressy evening shop. It's more of a day casual, quite Italian, sort of, we buy a lot from Italy, and it's a good price point. It's sort of very wearable, you know, things. So we continued that. But I noticed that women were loving the sort of more comfy linens and the more day dresses rather than anything dressy. So we just went down that route. And we also really joined together with Jess and Kiana to use their social media. So they've got a much bigger social media than me. So it's been brilliant for me to have their platform to promote the shop. I think that's really helped.
It may be that there's less dressy stuff, and I'm speaking as a man, I don't understand this world at all, but less dressy stuff because there are fewer places or occasions to go out. There isn't the same sense of, you know, dressing up for some big evening, because the big evenings right now don't exist in the same way. We're all sort of emerging into this new world.
You can stick on a dress with a pair of Converses now, so, and a denim jacket. So I think women are just, we still like to dress up, some of us.
Yeah. And presumably your own approach as well as your brand offering means that you can just modulate. If I don't know, the slightly more formal dressed up stuff does seem to come back in the autumn, you up weight and down weight and so on. What sort of lead-in times would you have in terms of your stock?
I'm really fast and reactive. So we do a lot of our own manufacturing. We have a lot of contacts. I have weekly deliveries, and that's the best part about being independent and being able to control what comes in and when it comes in. So we can react very much to the weather, to the need. So I haven't got a big backlog of stock because I buy, you know, as I need, and there's a particular dress that's been amazing. So, you know, I bought 400 or 500 of that one because that was such a brilliant line, and that's just going to end pretty much just as the weather ends. So we can judge it. But I think it's keeping that fresh buying feel and just an enthusiasm, realizing that so many of my customers are they're lonely, some of them. You know, they're coming in for an experience, to feel like the world's still a little bit normal, and they go out.
That's part of retail and hospitality, being part of the sort of the living culture, the social of our cities, and that sense of whether it's a kindred spirit or simply a familiar face. That's what's been missing for so many people these months, and it has been lovely to see how that sense of kinship remains so profound, if anything, more profound. We value it yet more than previously.
Yes.
Nickie, for now, if I could ask you to devidify, if that's a word, and we'll bring you back for the panel session, but thank you very much. Thank you. And let's bring in Robert. When we talk about iconic retailers, for many in Bath, everyone is aware of Mallory's. It's an incredible institution, as Tim mentioned earlier, 122 years in business, very much a destination retailer. And so when Robert comes forward in a moment, I would like to explore with him. There's Robert. Good morning. If you could unmute yourself, Robert. That's probably the top right corner. There we are. Lovely.
Am I unmuted?
You are lovely. You are on, sir. Yeah, very good. How are you this morning?
I'm absolutely fine. I'm sorry I didn't join the prelude to this because unfortunately my freezer broke, and so I was busy taking things out of the freezer and putting it in a safe place. So I do apologise for that.
Not at all. I mean, in one, you've sort of defined how these things work, that real life intrudes, and we've all become that much more human in ourselves. We're coping with doorbells and dogs and God knows what. And in my case, is a thunderstorm just outside from where I am right now. So tell us about Mallory. You clearly were closed during that period. Were your team furloughed? How did that work managerially for you? How many people do you have?
We have around about 40 people. 90% were furloughed, including me. My wife. So there were 3 individuals who came in twice a week into the shop. We have an e-commerce site. Katie, my daughter, who's been with us now nearly 7 years, she was very proactive into this. She was answering all the emails that were coming in, and we endeavoured to what I call interact with the consumer, and there were a lot of emails. I was just asking, say, how many emails were you getting a day? Bear in mind that everybody knew we were shut, but you know, we're getting 10, 20, 30 emails a day from saying, you know, when can I have my repair back, please? And are you a secure company, or are you going to go bust? You know, so there's sort of all sorts of funny questions coming along. Anyway, it was very interesting. Personally, I mean, this is, I think, new to all of us, and you were trying to recall what historically can you compare it with, and you think of the miners' strike and where we had no electricity and power cuts and things like that. But funny enough, I feel what I call more positive about the situation economically than I did then, because I think that in terms of the consumer, we are a more consumer society, whether it be online or from shops, than we were in the 70s. So anyway, but going forward, we looked after our customers, we answered their emails, we delivered things to customers, which people were very appreciative of, and it worked well. And we had lots of emails. Oh, thank you so much. You know, we appreciate this. Because there are people I know with our industry who virtually locked up shop and did nothing, and they suffered. And we have found that because we stayed in contact with our consumer, they rebounded really, really quite quickly. So we were closed, but they knew they could communicate with us.
And just to that point, I mean, if I could be just a bit parochial about our business, that's pretty much the approach we took, that whilst virtually all of our team was furloughed, we couldn't publish magazines, we couldn't run events. nonetheless, we could keep a presence such as these webinars, our social media and our email marketing, because that form of connection disproportionately matters. That was our take on it, and you've clearly had the same sort of response.
So,
tell us about your business going forward in the very near term. I described you as a sort of a destination retailer. I'm sorry if that's a slightly inelegant phrase, but clearly people come to Bath, and part of the repertoire, part of the reason for coming to Bath is to shop at Mallory. People aren't coming to Bath in anything like the same numbers. How will that affect your business in the near term?
Who knows? It's a short answer. However, we actually feel really quite positive. I mean, I was trying to you evaluate people and yourself, and possibly a proportion of our consumer are of an older generation. And I think of the people who, you know, what are people doing who used to go on cruises, who used to go on holiday? What are they doing with their money? You know, because there's an awful lot out there. So with that looks an opportunity. However, there's the aspirational young who want to buy the in watch or whatever the case may be. So going forward, I'm actually quite positive. I think it'll be good. I've been surprised, and I sort of asked some of the figures, and I looked at our, we no longer can browse people, whereas people came into our shop and browse. That's not happening. So people are coming with a purpose to buy. And I looked at our transactions over July, and even though we technically sold in terms of numbers about 30% less, but in terms of value, we sold more than last year. So, so you know, that to us, that is sort of quite positive.
And why do you think that is? I mean, in sort of other terms you call, I suppose, spend per head or spend per customer or whatever. Why has it increased, and what sort of items are being bought more than what would have been bought previously?
Within our industry, the watch market has been probably the key to driving in things, particularly Rolex and Patek are very, very strong, very long deliveries. You know, we're on a quota basis, and, you know, there is a demand. I mean, I should think every day, if I look at our inquiry box, we probably had 10 people wanting a Rolex Submariner, and we actually don't take orders any longer. You know, it's sort of crazy. So we also have, you know, people who watch collectors who buy and say, right, I want that watch. And we did get deliveries from our suppliers during lockdown. We made arrangements, they came. So we managed to carry on. And, you know, we did deliver, you know, customers repairs. And so that sort of continued, you know, we had the sort of wheels operating within the business. So I think, you know, going forward, you know, one day at a time, we can't guarantee. We had earmarked that in September of this year, we'd actually, part of our watch section would be renovated or altered. We've now deferred that to January, not because of anything here, but mainly because the supplier who makes our shop fitters comes from Italy and Milan, and they obviously weren't going anywhere, so everything was late. But we will continue with that in January. So we believe going forward, it's important that we must demonstrate that we are here for now and here to stay, which I think is also important.
Yeah. By the way, for those watching, please do ask questions if you wish using the Q&A button at the bottom, and I'll bring in those questions during this discussion. But back to you, Robert. One of the areas, and pretty much every area has been affected by the pandemic, but one area most obviously affected is the wedding market. The weddings cancelled or at least postponed. Has that had an impact on your business, or is it simply, it means you're going to have an even more fantastic year next year because there's going to be so many more weddings proportionally than previously?
No, weddings is, I mean, I think the number of people getting engaged, if that's a proportion, has been declining for years. I mean, when I came into the trade in the sort of late 60s, 70s, you know, I think there were about 300, 400,000 engagements a ring, engagement rings bought per year. Now I think it's down to about 250, you know, so it's that people don't buy that sort of thing. Weddings, I'm sure in terms of the hospitality interest is absolutely key, but for us, no. I think it is a part of our business, but there are just as many people who get married, have kids, then go and buy an engagement ring, you know, so I don't think that there's no time scale now when people do things. It's different, the market's different, people are different.
Could you Just talk us through, if someone wished to come to Mallory today, would they have to book a time? What would their actual journey be like when they go across your portal? What do they have to do, and what sort of mindset are they in as they enter your portal?
Well, we do encourage, booking appointments, and we will take off the street. But I was just asking, 70% of our people coming into the shop have booked an appointment. So that's quite useful, so we can control. That isn't to say we refuse people who come to the door. We obviously do have a locked door scenario, but we have a chat there, and if they're asked whether they have an appointment, and if they say no, then we just check we have room. I mean, it's not often we haven't got room, so we always stick them somewhere.
You've got large premises, terrific premises. So.
But we've removed some of our counters. We have screens, and so not all our counters have got screens. So yes, they will come in, they will be dealt with. I mean, if they're bringing their own repairs in, the sales in person has to wear gloves to take their things in, then basically they are handled and then sterilised, and then put aside for 24 hours for obviously reasons that we already know. And the same when customers come in and actually look at items, we actually have to isolate those items for 24 hours. So, there's a process we go through. I mean, it hasn't, people coming in and being actually quite normal. I mean, I don't think it's been a major issue. People feel secure. They can see we're doing everything. We encourage people to sanitize their hands, etc., like everybody else. So I don't know. As time goes on, it's become the norm. Yeah. And I think it's very important that we, I think there are shops, and I've been into shops where I've decided, people, they've been quite negative in their approach to the consumer, and I think, well, that's not the way. Try and treat people in a friendly way. Okay, it's an environment we have to live in, but we're coping.
Human beings are endlessly adaptable. We surprise ourselves with that inventiveness which we bring to our lives generally. And I suspect one of the other points is that what we're all thinking now, excuse me, will not be what we'll be thinking in September and October, because we will have adapted yet again. And it becomes slightly normative, as you're saying. Robert, we certainly wish you all the best. If I could ask you to take yourself a video for now, and I'll bring you back in the panel session shortly. Thank you so far.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Helen, if you would like to step forward with elan and flair that you showed at the Bath Life Awards when you were so thrilled to win and so on. I mentioned in the intro that in some ways you're not exactly the sort of conventional retailer, but your world is a form of retailing. It's getting products, packaging essentially, and selling. So how has it been for you these 4 or 5 months?
Can you hear me? Oh, yes, excellent. It's been totally and utterly ridiculous. I kind of feel like I'm on the other side of the fence, really, because we're in food delivery. The first week lockdown hit, you freaked out because you thought, what's going to happen? And then I realised we deliver food across the UK straight to people's doors. And it's not stopped. So I think the biggest thing for me was the responsibility. I represent 35 local food producers. Their market, they support restaurants, they sell through markets. I've got 35 people's families who we may be their only outlet. And that's a huge responsibility. And that was a wake-up call of, actually, I need to really push me and my team to drive sales as much as possible for those people, not for ourselves. So the first thing we did was we introduced free delivery across the UK. That was, a loss to us as the business, because obviously the revenue of covering that, but it enabled us to increase volume significantly. And with that, we supported the local producers with more volume.
And very roughly, of your business prior to lockdown and then subsequent, how much was, if I could call it this, B2B, i.e. to other businesses, and how much of it was direct to consumer? How's that changed?
So we've been very much focused on the B2B side of the market, you know, Bath's Best Business Service, Bath Life Awards. We 80%, you know, was B2B. And then when COVID happened, it shot up B2C to 40%. You know, retail sales, and it's very reactionary. People want things there and now. So you would be processing orders, and you just get order after order after order after order, and you're thinking to yourself, oh my goodness, you know, I need to get these out. And as well, just with the email traffic, like Robert was saying, you know, so-and-so is self-isolating, will it be safe, how, when will it be delivered? And the couriers were amazing. You know, they really supported us throughout. They picked up all the time, delivered safely. So that was a real reassurance. But just the volume of sales and the volume of demand, I think as well from, I'm a marketeer, from a marketing perspective, people really engaged with the supporting local vibe, and people realised, you know, the value of what Taste Bath is offering, in the sense that we were supporting local producers, and so people really engaged with that.
That sense of lockdown making everything local, it's something we've been very much sort of highlighting in our newsletters and social media, hashtag Bath Together. That's quite clear. It's true in each of the locales. We've spent more time in our immediate areas, perhaps discovering them completely afresh, certainly anew. Also the realisation that if we, which Tim very much touched on, if we don't support our local businesses, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. And that is the realisation. It is in all our interests to support the independents, particularly in our city, right here, right now. How have your sales very roughly split between actual Bath people and businesses as distinct from elsewhere? How's that moderated?
So I would say traditionally our B2C customer is external to Bath, actually. So they may buy to send to people in Bath. People in Bath buy to send to people outside of Bath. Normally a kind of smug food package, like, we live in Bath, our food is great, you don't live here. Which is quite
that's
fun.
not your marketing tag, I hope.
No.
That's a terrible marketing line.
And then, yeah, some people in Bath have been ordering for their neighbours. So if they're self-isolating, you know, thanks for doing my shopping, and they've been sending chocolates and coffee. Maternity gifts, people getting, having babies, lots of people have been sending food. That's been really nice. One of the biggest things I really need to highlight is the support we've had from Bath businesses. So a large proportion of non-Christmas orders are hotels or one-off portfolios for a marketing strategy. The biggest thing for us has been HR gifting. So lots of Bath firms have been sending out thanks for sticking with us, thanks for all your hard work, furloughed but not forgotten. So the portfolio work has increased significantly as well. So we've been sending out 300 units, you know, 180 units to people and all of their teams. So the B2B market is still really strong in Bath. Yeah, it's been full on.
Well, it's really good to hear some positive stories and ways businesses have either pivoted or been pulled to find new business areas. If I could bring our other panelists back forward, so Nickie, Tim and Robert, if you unmute yourself and connect on your video, that would be great. So whilst Robert and Tim are pressing, very good. And Robert, if you could unmute as well, please, thanks. So we've had a question from Jess at Modern Art Bar, Jessica Lloyd-Smith. What, if any, elements of the new normal way of operating in retail do you think you'll keep in place in the long term, even when we, if we do, get back to normal? Good question, Jess.
That's an excellent question, Jess.
And that's a time-stalling response, Tim. Come on, I'm going to have to press you here. Give me your answer. Come on.
What would we keep in place? I quite like the idea that we restrict the number of people in store, and so we can give each of our customers more time, more focus. And as a retailer now, particularly in our industry, it's more about the experience, the theatre of it all. So by restricting the number of people in store, you can give them more theatre.
Isn't that interesting? You know, the idea that 6, 12, 48 months ago, you might have said we think having fewer people is a good thing. That's almost exactly inimical to how most business practices work. You can see the logic of it. Robert, what do you think you might retain the other side, whenever that might be, of current practices?
Interesting, actually. Everybody's quite liking the appointments scheme. It works well. You can devote specifically to that consumer. Also, we have a one-way system. Actually, they come in the top door and go out of the bottom. So actually, that has worked quite well. So I think we'll look at everything. But I think the appointment system, I think, is something which we may retain or encourage. Let's put it like that. I think it would be wrong for us to say no, off the street consumer. But I don't think we'll do that. But yes.
Out of interest, very roughly, what proportion would have been appointments before this pandemic for you as a business?
Very little.
Really?
Yeah. You get some people who'd say, I've seen something on your website. Can I come and look at it? You know, I want to come on Saturday morning. It'd be quite a vague appointment, but now it's quite specific.
Yeah, very good. And Nickie, how about you? What do you think you might retain going forwards of current plans, current ways of operating?
I'd like it to get more back to normal like it was, but I think what it's done for us is made us communicate far more with our customers. We've got click and collect. We don't mind if we have to deliver something locally. We've got a few customers abroad who have said, look, can we see the shop? So I've done a bit of WhatsApp and I've gone around the shop and we've done a bit of independent shopping. And if people were like not very well, I mean, we wouldn't mind doing that for people, opening up the shop after hours, so that people can have small groups of friends or an occasion with a glass of Prosecco. So that kind of nervousness to come in has made us go forward to our customers, and we'll continue that afterwards, where they can, have more of a one-to-one feel and have direct contact with us.
And I think that point about communicating with customers yet more, every business is having to do that. And if I could give the most obvious plug in the world, if only there were a returning magazine to celebrate the best of the city that happens to be called Bath Live, it's a terrific channel, allegedly. Helen, what about from your point of view? What do you think might endure?
What I'd really like is the Bath population, but people in general, just to understand what difference, these people, all of these people in front of us have got businesses, they've got families. And by shopping local, you support people. And I hope that the thing that comes from this, yes, getting stuff on Amazon or whatever's great, but actually, Bath needs people to buy from people in Bath. And that's what's come through Taste of Bath. And I just hope people will keep doing that.
There's a form of enlightened self-interest. We exactly have the shops, the culture, the hospitality in the city precisely because people should be supporting those businesses, keeping them afloat, keeping them successful commercially, from which we all get benefit one way or another. So the point has been well made a couple of times. Come on to a very practical point, which probably less applies in your area, Helen, but for the physical retail environment. How has the move to compulsory mask wearing helped, and have there been any problems, people refusing to wear them or getting bolshy about it? You experience that at all?
People come into the store normally wearing a mask and they're quite content to wear it. We have available for them a free mask if they've forgotten, but I think people now are generally sensible with it all and they generally follow the rules, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Mm. Any issues, Robert or Nickie?
None at all. I mean, people seem to, just get on with it. I mean, I do find, unfortunately, I've really admitted that some of the consumers, if they're sitting in the shop for an hour, do let them drop a little bit because obviously conversation and then through a screen is fairly difficult. But on the whole, we would, they come in with the masks on and we offer them if they haven't. So no issues at all.
And perhaps, Nickie, initially some people were reluctant. There was people talking about a culture war developing about having to be told to do something. But in reality, people have acclimatized pretty quickly. Is that your experience?
Yeah, I think they're just delighted to be out. I think if it means they can be out shopping and they feel a sense of normality, I found they've been brilliant. And everyone's very disciplined. You don't need to tell people what to do. They're all doing it. So it's been a natural progression, really, and we've all got used to it. And it just means that we're open, we're back, so people are doing what, you know, it's been lovely, actually.
Very good. So Tim was talking earlier about the connectedness, that one way or another every business does connect. And so one instance of that is, of course, the Christmas market, where the whole city almost congests up. So many tens of thousands come in, a lot of commerce is done, and so on. But that isn't going to happen this year. How do you view that? Do you view that as some consumers in Bath will take the view that, thank God for that, you know, I can get around the city more easily, and others will say, well, it's a big loss on the commercial calendar. What's your take?
If I go first, then I think it's a great shame. The Christmas market attracts, I don't know, it must be tens of thousands, if not more, of people. I can understand why the organisers have postponed it, but for me as a business, it doesn't particularly benefit me, but it benefits the economy of Bath massively, massively. And I think it's a shame that it's not going to happen. I understand why it's not happening, and I hope it returns in some form next year.
Is the Christmas market pro or con for you as a business, or just simply separate too?
For me?
No, sorry, Robert.
Oh, sorry, me. I think, like Latvia, one has a love-hate relationship, I think, with the market. Yes, we see some benefit, but I mean, we also find that it does drive our locals away. They just say, I'm not coming into Bath, full stop, I bypass it, that's it. So there is benefit, but I think we'll miss it as a, you know, because it's a talked about event, and I think it is important. But you know, we have got new hotels coming to Bath, you know, and I think people will still want to come to this city. You know, the staycation, you know, is going to be great for Bath. You know, I think we must sort of diminish that. With things are bad out there, but I think if you had a business, you know, in Grantham, then I think you wouldn't be quite so happy. But we've got a huge environment with a whole infrastructure to accommodate visitors, and I think we will still do well out of it.
I suppose one other point is that beauty is free. You can wander around Bath, and this isn't necessarily a good commercial message, but you can, as a visitor, just look at the extraordinary beauty of the city, and in one, you feel enriched and excited. And if Bath can market itself as your staycation point, as a place of beauty in this time, and we all need that in our souls, maybe there's an uplift to be had. Nickie and Helen, what do you think about the lack of Christmas market? Much of an effect?
No, Nickie, you go first.
We'll miss it. It's great for our business, but it's what it is. So you kind of just move on, and there'll be the local people coming. I think it will still be very busy. So I've also made a suggestion to Bath Bid that maybe in front of the empty shops, they put sort of Taste of Bath type, and they use the sheds, and they sort of cover up the empty shops and have like a mini kind of food thing going on, because there are so many empty shops on Milson Street, plus it's closed. But I do feel that the locals will calm down. It'll be busy still. It'll just be a little bit different this year. But it is what it is, isn't it?
Ultimately, that exact point, it is what it is. We have to play our hand as best we can in circumstances. We can't control the major. We can control the more minor, more immediate. Helen, your take?
35 of my local producers, and they all trade. We're about 20% of the market. My producers are devastated. You know, this can be 20 to 40% of their annual turnover. So they're really panicking, to be honest. That's very, very hard for me to hear. How much can I say about Bath Bid and people wanting me to do something about it? It's a lot of responsibility, and as an independent, people are always asking you for the answers, but you get no support from the council. So
let me ask you that. You say, you know, how much can you say? Well, we'll say more. What do you wish to do, and what are you not able to do?
I can't say what I wish to do, because if I don't do it, everybody will know what I wish to do. There's plans afoot, I will say that. the difficulty is there's, like Nickie was saying, you know, there's no business relief for certain people of a certain size. You know, Taste of Bath, we represent 20% of the market. If we do something, we will be seen as saving those producers. I would love to do something, but I can't risk that future wholesale for them by putting ourselves at risk. We're not being offered any support at all for our producers. It's really difficult for them. It's a real worry. We are plotting, is all I'll say.
Okay, here's the deal, Helen. I'll stop asking you this same question in practical style, provided that you give us the exclusive for Bath Life explaining whatever it is or isn't that you're doing in subsequent weeks. Deal?
Deal.
Done. Everyone heard it. You can't go back on that now. So we've had a couple more questions in. So Sarah Muller, who works for Media Clash, and she's returning to Bath Life, having been deputy editor for some time a while back. She's coming back as editor of Bath Life, having most recently been editing Cardiff Life. She says, and you've touched on this, do you see local retail collaborations evolving at all to draw people back to the high street, broadly the high street? And do you think the chains will see the value of getting involved? I think that latter point is quite interesting. The chains typically market and think nationally. They don't always see the benefit of operating locally. What are your thoughts? Anyone?
There's a new coffee shop that we frequent up at Bathwick Hill, and it is owned by Claire, who was the You're So Invited lady. And she'd opened up a shop called Dexter's, and it's coffee and cakes and croissants. And next to her is a flower shop, a florist that's been there for years. And I asked the florist the other day about whether having a coffee shop next to her for the last couple of months has benefited her business. And she said to me, massively. Although only a third of her business revenue is retail, she said having Dexter's next door has a massive impact. And this demonstrates, doesn't it, the interconnectivity of retail and of all these shops and businesses that we all trade in this beautiful city together. The multiple businesses, I think, are less inclined to get involved with at a local level. I think they have their national marketing policies and advertising campaigns and are less likely to get involved locally. That's how
the local bosses have less authority, I guess. They don't have the budget, they don't have the spend, they don't have the capability. But somewhere we've got to include them in this narrative. Look at how Southgate's been trading; it's been doing particularly well, it seems, in current times. So they're finding a way through. Nickie, other collaborations out there that do you think there's going to be more collaboration going forward?
Yeah, I think we've always wanted to do fashion shows. You know, the Ivy offered for us to have their room. We just didn't have time to do it. So I think that, you know, fashion shows in spaces. I think we did actually one at the Guildhall a couple of years ago. That was brilliant. We're just part of a group. But yeah, things like that would be lovely to be able to collaborate. And with other independents, we will always collaborate. I think anything you do, literally any collaboration, any joining together is fantastic.
Helen, we've got a very short question from a normally quite loquacious man, Dave Dixon, and it's a yes/no answer. Will Helen add wooden ties to her hampers?
No.
No. Okay, done. Next, Kerry Ann has asked, along with the tea order, I was asked for house buying advice from a customer who's looking to move to this area. What's the weirdest thing you've been asked for during lockdown or immediately post that? Don't all rush. That doesn't sound like...
I get weird ones all the time. People don't realise our USP. So people ask me, do you have truffles? Do you have port? Do you have Prosecco? And I'm like, no, none of that is made in Bath. Sorry. Okay,
I'm going to come to the last point now. And if you wish to contribute to this, please do. We've heard some very positive comments today. You have your own energy, confidence, experience, optimism, and so on. But what we've been particularly struck by during this lockdown, it's been so touching to see how the people and businesses of Bath are creating clever ways to support. We talk about collaboration there and help where they can. And we've been sharing that through our hashtag Bath Together, we encourage you to do as well. So perhaps if you could give us a vignette of an anecdote of the good that people do. Perhaps Helen, you start.
I've been really impressed by 3SG, which is a local charity run by a guy called James. He has mobilised lots of volunteers, promoting local food deliveries of all the independents, but they joined up with Curo. Curo wanted afternoon teas delivered to all of their vulnerable elderly who are isolating. So 3SG provided free volunteers who delivered 600 cream teas.
Which is terrific. It's brilliant how people have been rallying around. Robert, I don't know if anything springs to mind from your perspective about the thoughtfulness of people in these times.
Well, only very indirectly with us, we had for my daughter, because we weren't, obviously we were shut, but we had an individual, a couple who we had to, my daughter had to go out because she was not going to live very long, and we had to go and deliver something for her and for her last few months on this earth. So we were very happy to go and personally do that. Even my little daughter was quite concerned about sort of going out and doing something in someone's house, but she felt she has to, so she has done that sort of thing to help someone.
That's highly thoughtful, and that's an exact example of an extremely thoughtful, independent company that does the right thing in these tough times. So thank you for that. Nickie, you've got a thought perhaps about the RUH, and we've talked about some of the chains. There's a story you've got there.
Yeah, we rang the RUH at the beginning because we heard that they had a wobble room. So that was to support the staff if they found it too much. So we rang the organiser and said, look, is there anything we can do to help? And they asked for underwear for people that have to stay overnight, that if they don't get a chance to go home. They asked for toiletries for those staff staying overnight. They asked for chocolate, and they asked for snacks. So we rang Boots, Sainsbury's and Waitrose, got straight through to managers, and they were absolutely brilliant. So I don't normally deal with the big guys, I'm normally more independent, but they were fantastic, and we couldn't help them deliver it. They used their deliveries, and they took all of those items up to the RUH, and I think it made quite a difference to those staff. First of all, feeling like they were getting help, they weren't forgotten, and they were really practical things. And then the chocolate was just brilliant. They threw in a load of chocolate, because I think if you're on a shift and you could just grab some healthy snacks and some chocolate, it just seemed to. And the other thing as well, a big one, Sarah Baker gave us a fantastic shout out for that. And also they wanted a coffee machine in the wobble room. So I put that out on the Instagram, and Marshfield Ice Cream, Dawn from Marshfield Ice Cream, she loaned them during this time her coffee making machine for the wobble room. So it's great, and to get it put out on the radio by Sarah Baker, who's brilliant at supporting things like that, it just felt like it brought things together a little bit, and hopefully it helped a little.
I'm sure it will have helped, and it's great for us in whichever iteration to show support for the frontline workers, particularly at the RUH, who have, like all workers in that area, have had such pressure on them, tough times and so on. Brilliant that independents and national chains in that case have come together. Tim, your closing thoughts here, please.
I think a quick shout out to Lucy and Bex at the Hive Yoga in Walcott Street. My wife Annie now does a whole series of online classes with them, and they gave a number of free yoga and fitness classes to the NHS workers during lockdown, which they had a value of X thousand. I don't know what the value was, but I think it's just a wonderful thing to do.
Really good. Really good. I think we have all been touched by people, in the worst of times, people give of their best, and these stories have brought exactly that out. We are through our time. That flew by. Thank you to all of our panellists this morning. Robert Vander of Mallory, Nickie Portman of the fashion retailer Portman, Tim Moss of Moss of Bath, and Helen Rich from Taste of Bath. To you all, thank you very much. And thank you for your time and questions today. And of course, the Motors Druid, our sponsor of the Bath Life Business Club. It's sponsoring it virtually. We expect to be back in real life. That probably is going to be into 2021. But we will look forward to that when we can, and we'll update when we know. Look out for our next Bath Life Business Surgery with Ojo Solutions on next Monday, August 17th. It's digital strategies to promote businesses in these times particularly, and again, what will endure or change going forwards. Quick plug for a different place, which is some place called Bristol. We have a Bristol Life Business Club coming up on Wednesday, August 19th. That's about commercial property. And one way or another, the commercial vitality of all cities, what it is to have offices, working from home or flexible space and so on, those tectonic plates are shifting quite strongly. And that, as to Tim's point about everything connecting, commercial property absolutely connects the commercial vitality of all cities. Our very, very best wishes to all of our panellists in your businesses and to everyone in the retail sector. We need Bath's independent retail sector to thrive. It's part of our living culture, our social glue, and it's a key cornerstone of what this city is and has to offer. So we wish you all prosperity possible in current times. Good luck and good wisdom to everyone watching this. This has been a Media Clash production, and this has been the Bath Life Business Club. Thank you. Bath together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.